Hello everybody, and welcome back to more Kerbal Space Program. You guys have been sending me a lot of really good messages saying that you love this series, and that's awesome, so I'm going to keep doing it. I planned on doing it anyways, but it makes it even more fun to do when I know that you guys are actually enjoying the content. So, we are actually in my original saved game, which is, my personal save, and I wanted to show you guys something first because we need a goal, right? I mean, we had a goal set to get to the very edge planet, and that is still our goal, but we need a short-term goal. Like, what can we do in the short term? We're trying to get to Minmus currently. We have our probe, but I wanted to show you guys a specific thing that I have created this past week, which is a refueling station. Now, the way you get to other planets, distant planets and distant moons, and have enough fuel to get back is by having a station that you refuel at. So I created this. This is, a basic one, really. But you've got this X piece right here, as you can see. Now, this piece is basically the piece that controls where things are coming in at. So all of these little pieces at the end, these are docking stations. And then obviously these fuel tanks I've actually came and docked against it. So what happens is I got this one X piece up first, got that all in orbit where I wanted it to. Then I send up these fuel tanks individually, in groupings of their 4 that they have. I could send up more than that, but it's just what I've been doing currently. And by the way, my frame rate tanks because of how many individual parts are here, but it's totally worth it. So what'll happen is I get all of these full fuel tanks to the station, I dock them. I could have potentially another 5 going on here, but I don't. I haven't got those up yet because it takes about 15 minutes to get these all in orbit and docked per set of fuel tanks. But you get your main rocket or whatever you're actually taking to other planets. You use a lot of your fuel getting out of orbit, which is fine, and then you dock on either end of these, which is why I have it set up on 2 ends, just in case you come up the other direction. You never know. It makes it easier if you have it on 2 ends, more accessibility. And then you're able to transfer fuel from one of these sets of fuel tanks to your fuel tank. So it'll refuel your spaceship, and then you can then, go to interstellar areas, it's a really cool way of doing it. And you could set up these fuel stations pretty much anywhere in your little solar system that you've got going on. You set them up, in the other planets' orbits and stuff. And we plan on doing that because it makes getting around a lot easier, just having all these fuel tanks, or refueling stations rather, and giant satellites. And we plan to add more cool things other than just fuel stations, like what I have here. Like I want a full space station at each planet, which it'll be fun to do. But I just wanted to show you guys why I do things like this. And this is kind of our short-term goal, is to get this kind of thing going. A basic version where basically we just refuel and go. Ideally, you want the orange fuel tanks, which are pretty much at the end of the tech tree, as your refueling tanks, because they have a lot of fuel in them. So it takes a while for you to drain all the fuel out of them. And I'm pretty sure that makes sense to everybody. But just so I got a full light system on this thing, and frame rate, like I said, tanks, because it has a lot of parts, but it's pretty sick. And this is just what I've gotten done so far. And then I did want to go back to the Space Center on this save and show you the tech tree, just so you know the direction we're headed. And it also helps to refresh my memory. So right now we are trying to get this. That's kind of our primary goal, is to get these orange fuel tanks and then these amazing engines that have just a massive amount of thrust. So that's kind of like the main goal. And then we want this, because this has all the docking stuff. So our 2 things we want are the very heavy rocketry and the specialized construction. So we want those 2 things, but there's things in the way that we have to get first. It's also worth mentioning, as we switch over to the other game, that I installed the Ion Engine mod, and it was something that I talked about before, but it expands upon how the Ion engines actually work. And now that we're on the other save, the Ion engines are one of those things that in the game currently, in the vanilla part of the game, they're very weak and they don't do a whole lot. But they have a mod that makes it so you can have massive ion engines, and then that creates the ability to make spaceships, like really cool, ships like that you would see in sci-fi movies and stuff like that. So that's why I installed that, but we won't be at that until a very long time, because it's at pretty much the very end of the tech tree, and we have a lot of stuff to get here. So goals are to get enough science to get this, and then the advanced construction, that those rockets, the nuclear rockets, which are really good and efficient, and then the advanced rocketry. There's some other things here that we need, like we need the solar panels, and that's definitely a priority, because that allows us to get those fueling stations ready to go, because it makes it so it's unmanned, and then it has an infinite amount of power, which is always good. And then there is also just a few things here and there, like low ladders and stuff that are really nice to have, but we'll get there. So first thing, though, is to get our probe, our Minmus probe that we had here, get it launched, get it into the orbit of Minmus, and then back to Kerbal. We'll do a near miss like we did last time with the moon, not landing and all that, and that should work. Now I just realized that these actually aren't connecting, which is kind of strange. So let's see if we can get this actually connected properly here. Oh gosh, I don't even know how many there were. Okay, there were a lot, basically, that we had to connect to that. There we go. Now it's working. Cool. I know all the staging is set up because we did that in the last one, and we had the probe on the launch pad from the last episode, so we'll just clear that off, and we'll go. Alright, it's bouncing around quite a bit, but SAS is on. We'll put our thrust or throttle up. Not that we need to, but we will anyways. And we know this rocket system works, so we'll just launch and go. So let's get all of this set up. Heck, we'll even go to my map and get this on. So we're good to go. Very little things can go wrong. We know we have plenty of fuel to get to the moon at the very least, so we know we have plenty of fuel then to get to Minmus, because it doesn't take that much more to get to that extra moon out in our little planetary orbit. It does, however, require a little bit to land and get back, so we might land, maybe, probably not. I did put landing gear on for when we come back that we can actually land, but it could kind of go either way with whether we're actually going to land on Minmus or not. And now that we're on our asparagus system, we pretty much are just launching our fuel. This is kind of the easy part. I am going to kind of start the atmospheric turn. I know I don't usually do it at 10,000 meters like a lot of other people do, but I'm starting it a little earlier than I would normally, just to save as much fuel as possible, because it is more efficient to go at about 10,000 meters, especially when you have quite a bit of meters per second in speed like we do. And of course, the reasoning for that, as we've said previously, is because then you're gaining horizontal and vertical speed at the same time, and not just vertical, and then suddenly having to do horizontal, which is just, it makes sense in the realm of physics. We are starting to get to the point, however, that you guys have seen so many launches that will show very few launches anymore, unless we have like a really cool craft that we're launching, and hoping and praying that it does not just explode on us, which the chances of that happening are fairly likely, let's be honest. Now that I'm actually up this high, I'm just going to check my orbit. Yeah, plenty. So we are just going to go directly like so, and just straight on the horizon. Full throttle, full burn, and like I said, we should have plenty of fuel to get out of the orbit of Kerbin and into the escape trajectory, or out into an escape trajectory to get to Minmus, and then slingshot ourselves back. And once again, we're just kind of watching the actual fuel and and our speed for our orbit. This engine's going to run out fairly quickly, but that's really not a big deal to us because we have all of these, and these engines are really, really efficient. And once again, we don't really plan on landing, so fuel isn't really much of an issue. And boom, there's those. Although we could probably turn down the burn quite a bit. Don't need to be burning full throttle. We did put lights on this, though, so we could turn those on. Now that's kind of getting in the darker areas of space here. And we could probably just leave them on, so that way we can see a little better. I wish I had put more facing up. I mean, I have these right here and there. But, you know, it would have been nice to actually be able to see my craft a little bit more. And we are getting very close to making an orbit. I also have to kind of keep an eye on the fuel, because a couple of the fuel tanks are almost out, and we don't want to be dragging that dead weight with us. Let's just go ahead and drop those now. And we will keep an eye on this. Get this probably to about 70. And that's fine. Okay, we're good now. We don't, I mean, our orbit is a little wonky, but we don't really have to worry too much about that. Actually might be better for us in the long run anyways. And the reasoning is because our max speed at the periapsis is going to be quite good. So what we're going to do here is we're going to zoom out. Normally we would go to the moon. We already obviously have a flag on the moon. You can see the flag there. But we are trying to get to Minmus. So we're going to set this as the target. Now, because it is on a different plane, one of the first things we need to do is to do an actual plane change. It gets a little kind of difficult of when you're supposed to be doing it. So I'm gonna try to set one up here. I actually haven't done a plane change in a while, so we'll see how this ends up working. But I know that it needs to go like that, and I mean it's pretty close actually as far as plane changes go. So let's go with that. Okay, so what we're gonna do is that we need to go back to my craft. Come on, game. Go. Okay, fine. We're going to have to go to the Space Center and then go back to it because it's totally not letting me. I think I double-clicked on Minmus. And you might be surprised how often that actually happens. Okay, now, the question here is, did it keep... No, of course it didn't. It keeps the node. That's fine. We will retarget. And instead of double-clicking like we did... actually, you know what? We could probably do it on this axis, which might be a little better. And is it still up? No, it's the other way. So about that, right? I mean, that looks pretty good. Almost spot on. Okay, so we'll get all these back up. And we will point to where we need to be pointing, which is not any of these directions. It's this way. We call that taking a tour around the compass. Just like spinning my craft around until I find it. And we only have to burn 203 meters per second in about 11 minutes. So we're going to speed up time here. Okay, so we'll go about a minute. And we'll leave it like that, because we can always... adjusting our plane is a lot easier than, say, adjusting, you know, as an escape trajectory from the planet. Because with adjusting your plane, you can constantly keep adjusting it. If you get a bad trajectory out of a planet's orbit, you can be launching yourself into the sun. So you got to be really kind of careful with those kind of things. This is, you know, not as important. How are we looking on fuel, though? We are pointing ourselves directly straight down, and fuel's not really too much of an issue, which is good. I'm actually going to stop burn, and we'll go to about 10 seconds. That's perfect, and we'll just full burn. Which should put us right on the money. Pretty much. And that's actually fairly close. We did a very good job on that plane change. Okay, now... the fun part of actually making a trajectory that will work. So we're going to add maneuver, we're going to prograde, and we want to keep an eye on those two markers there. Almost had it. Maybe more prograde. Gently. Yep. A little bit more. That's about as good as we can hope for. That's actually not bad at all. 853 meters a second. That's, yeah, like I said, that's about as good as we can hope for. And we're not going to be hitting the moon. That's always a bad, thing to happen is if you're trying to get to Min-Miss and the moon is constantly in your way. It happens, so you just got to be aware that that can be a thing and to time your launch a little better. And we're right on the money. Okay, so we're basically going to speed up, which is nice. I love the speed up feature. And what I'm looking at here is our trajectory back is actually going to put us right into Kerbin, which is what we want. We want to be in the atmosphere or the orbit of Min-Miss, get the science, and then come back. And that looks like exactly what we're going to be doing, which is perfect. So we're going to speed up, and we're just going to check real quick. Yeah, we're looking pretty good as far as fuel goes, so we should be fine. So let's speed up to when we actually have to burn. Now, it says about 58 seconds, so we're going to leave about 1 minute and 10. So about that, let's get us on the money, and let's full burn. Now, I'm gonna actually kind of keep an eye more on my fuel here. We want to be careful with our fuel, that is for sure. And we're actually burning that pretty quickly here as far as the meters per second. I was expecting this to take a little longer than it is. I can pull it back a little bit, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Just a little bit. About 3/4, I think. It should be good. We're also going to keep an eye on the fuel. I do need to quickly check to see if, okay, that is going the correct direction, which is always nice. Not that I doubted it, but you know, sometimes you just want to double check. Let's bring it down to 1/4 left and kind of wait for it. Okay, let's burn again. Back to 3/4. Get ready to get rid of those secondary engines. Those are gone, which means we now need to full burn. I forgot that we don't have the extra thrust from those engines, so yeah, we'll get there. And will we make it? Ooh, it might be close, but we can always readjust because this is not, I mean, we're already 5 seconds over. Ooh, that was really close. Okay, so let's go back and we will retrograde. Like so. Nailed it. Perfect, actually. And again, I think we did this at the moon as a better arc, and we're still coming in, you know, pretty close to the planet, which is nice. Okay, so we're going to speed up and get within Min-Miss's orbit, but first, quick save.